Hey everybody, welcome back to the Court of Random Opinion. My name is Neidigh. I want to go over some of the stuff that came out last night in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case, where Blake Lively has now filed for punitive damages, treble damages, and attorney's fees under Section 47.1. And everybody knew that was coming. I think that's not necessarily new information in itself, but there were a couple of things that came up in the filing that I felt like should be touched on. Mostly this redacted declaration, which is, I guess, signed by someone else who's accusing Justin Baldoni of having been verbally abusive at some point on a different project. Like I said, this is redacted. You can't see who the person actually is making the accusation here. When I first read this, I thought this could be Blake Lively herself. It could be her sister, who was also on the set of It Ends With Us. It says, I had repeated negative interactions with Mr. Baldoni and his associates, including verbal abuse by Mr. Baldoni. Then it says something redacted. Mr. Baldoni not be permitted on set during the majority of production as a result of those experiences. Again, a lot of this is redacted. You're not really seeing anything substantial here, any detail as to what this person is alleging. I requested that he not be involved in redacted marketing or public relations efforts. And at first I didn't understand why that was redacted, but as it turns out, this is somebody who worked with him on a different project. So it wasn't even It Ends With Us. So when it says involved in and it's redacted, I guess that is the project that that person worked with Wayfarer on. But like I said at the time, when I had only read this, I thought that this might be Blake's. I was contacted by the assistant to Steve Sarowitz, the co-founder and co-chairman of Wayfarer, to schedule a time for me and Mr. Sarowitz to speak. Mr. Sarowitz's assistant did not identify a topic for the meeting, and then everything there is redacted. So, a true and correct copy of something, I have no idea what the fuck it is, because again, it's blacked out, produced in Discovery, is being submitted with this declaration as Exhibit 1. I want to take a look really quickly at the context in which this declaration was brought up, because that's important. As far as this whole memorandum itself, I'm not going to, go through the whole thing again this morning. I'll wait for Omar to do that again, to where he can rationalize a little bit more, because kind of felt a little bit like rage bait to me. So we'll wait for him to go through that again, hopefully sometime soon. I don't know if we can do it tonight, but I'll talk to him. But anyways, here's the context for the declaration we just read. And it all comes back to Steve Sarowitz and these statements he allegedly made. Remember, there's no actual proof of that being shown. This was not something that was put in writing, at least not to my knowledge, or I don't think anyone else's knowledge at this point. And here's where actually the whole thing gets a little fucking ridiculous to me. Multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged to a witness at the film's New York premiere on August 6th that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family. Now look at this footnote here. Footnote 8 of the SAC noted, when asked about this comment, Mr. Sarowitz's counsel confirmed that his client is prepared to spend whatever necessary to defend Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and himself. So again, like I keep saying, every time this quote comes up, that is not a threat, and that it's not exactly what they're saying he said. Saying that he's prepared to spend whatever he has to defend himself, his very close friend, and his studio, that's not a threat to ruin someone else's life. The only reason that would be a threat to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds is if they're lying. And I personally believe that they are. So maybe that's why they took this so personally. That was not the only time Mr. Sarowitz made such a threat. Later in August 2024, even though the film had turned out very well and Wayfarer had made a lot of money on it, Mr. Sarowitz confessed to another witness, an individual who was working with Wayfarer on an unrelated project, and that individual is the person who wrote that declaration, that if Miss Lively or Mr. Reynolds ever cross the line ever, then I will go after them. He declared, I will protect the studio like Israel protected itself from Hamas. There were 39,000 dead bodies. There will be 2 dead bodies when I'm done, minimum. Not dead, but you're dead to me. Now, regardless of how you feel about the whole Israel and Hamas thing, it has actually nothing to do with this whatsoever. He may or may not have used those words in conversation with this person. I have no idea if this is a credible source at all. But they're being quite obvious here when they bold everything here, like there will be 2 dead bodies, and then they conveniently don't bold this part right here, not dead, but you're dead to me. So they've known the entire time that he specifically said, no, not really, not dead, but you're dead to me. So that kind of dead, but dead to a lot of people. If they ever get me to that point, then I'll make it worth their while, because I'm going to spend a lot of money to make sure the studio is protected. Again, this is all about defense. It's all about protection. The entire quote is right there, but they're trying to sensationalize the first part of it, what he allegedly said, by the way. This is still not confirmed, not in writing, but it's right here in black and white what he allegedly said, and they're still choosing to ignore the parts that refute that she was ever in any kind of danger, or that he was going to try to ruin her life for no reason whatsoever. Now, they may not like the guy, they may not like what he said, they might have been offended by that, but if you really read that, all of it, in my opinion, there's no denying that he was only going to defend himself and his business and his friends if they crossed the line, which they ultimately did. Now, there's a footnote here about this person who made the declaration, who made the allegation that Steve Sarowitz said that. It says this person also had concerns with Mr. Baldoni, who they found to be verbally abusive, which resulted in him not being allowed on the set of the other project or involved in its marketing or publicity. And then there's another line there that's redacted. So given that context, no, I don't think the declaration was Blake's. A lot of people have brought up Liz Plank, who worked on Man Enough, the podcast with them. And as most people know, Liz Plank ditched the podcast when Blake Lively came out with her accusations, but she had a pre-existing relationship with Blake and Ryan. Some people speculated that it might be someone in production who had worked with them on another project, or someone that Blake Lively brought into the film when she started to take over, because she did do that. But the truth is, I don't know who wrote that any more than anyone else does. And I don't need to know right now because I know enough about these people from people that I trust to know that they're good people, and I don't believe that they did what they're being accused of. This doesn't change anything for me. I have an incredibly hard time believing that the guy who is the biggest complaint against him in the press by anyone not related to Blake or Ryan or the film, was that he was too toxically positive. I have a hard time believing that that guy is a secret verbal abuser. And quite frankly, you could say something to someone who doesn't like you and they could try to call it verbal abuse. Doesn't mean anything. I have seen absolutely no proof of sexual harassment, no proof of any kind of abuse at all. And I'm not buying it. This is the same game I've been watching them play for months now. And I'm not going to suddenly find any of their accusations credible after everything that they've done. I find this use of 47.1 to be absolutely embarrassing to anyone who may actually need it. In my opinion, this is just continued exploitation of laws that are meant to protect actual survivors of sexual harassment or abuse. I've seen absolutely no proof that this woman was ever sexually harassed. I have seen proof that she lied about it. One thing that people can know for sure if you've seen the footage that came out is that things did not happen the way she said they happened the first time. That was a lie, and not something that I think people who need these kinds of protections should be quick to forgive. All right, guys, that's all I got for now. Obviously, I'll keep an eye out, and I'll be back if anything else comes up today. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you all soon.